You have to have a mindset in this business that there isn't another person on this planet that's going to be able to help that customer as well as you can.
Yeses are very surface level. Some people even just say yes to get rid of you. If you get someone to say no, you're going to find out the root of the problem or whatever it may be.
Everybody in sales is taught, get the yes, walk in, get a yes to this, get a yes to that. You get that no out, that opens everything out.
You don't have to sell to people. You actually have to ask calculated questions and tailor a proposal to what their needs are. Because when you start asking calculated questions, they only believe and retain about 25% of what you say, but they always believe 100% of what they say.
You mentioned it earlier that you've got this culture of collaboration.
If you're a plumber, if you're an electrician, if you're HVAC, you're selling a furnace or a heat pump or whatever it may be, if you associate yourself with top producers, you get to that level. And it can be also contagious the other way.
I'd like to welcome you all to the Wisdom of Wrench podcast today. We've got a really special show for everyone. We've got two gentlemen that are on our show today that both finished number one in their respective categories for the GOAT Awards in 2024. Yes, number one. And by the way, they're with the same company. They're with Donovan in Northeast Florida, which serves Jacksonville. These two gentlemen, one of them you're going to meet here in just a second, Brandon Zaharie. In 2022, Brandon finished 13th in the GOAT Awards at $5.03 million. In 2023, he finished 4th in the entire country at $5.87 million. And last year, he finished at $7.92 million in sales, number one in the category of comfort advisors in all of Wrench. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. His counterpart today, Steve Coletta, who's a selling technician. He finished number one in the selling technician category. Well, let me go back to 2022 with Steve as well. In 2022, Steve finished 4th in the selling technician category at $4.52 million. In 2023, he finished 1st in all of Wrench at $7.45 million. And in 2024, this last year, he finished at $8.69 million. $8.69 million, number one in the country as a selling technician. Number one salesperson between comfort advisors and all selling techs in the entire country. And we get to talk to these two gentlemen today. Why is it special? You're going to see in a minute. I've spent a little bit of time with these gentlemen before the podcast, and you're going to see that they have been able to make collaboration and working together a huge part of their secret sauce, a huge part and their formula for their success. And we're going to hear a little bit about that today and how you can bring that to your own company. So I'm excited. Let's get started. Good morning, gentlemen.
Hey, how are you? How's it going?
So good. So nice to have you guys here.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah.
Really do.
We're going to have a great show. Let's have some fun. So Brandon, I'm going to start with you because I know you've been with Donovan for over 19 years. That's pretty incredible in and of itself. But I would love for you just to take a couple of minutes, just give us a little bit of your background, how you got in the industry and just your journey so our viewers can kind of get an idea of who you are.
Sure. I'll try and compact it as simple as possible. My journey started, obviously, I grew up outside of Buffalo, New York, a little town called Lockport, New York. And when I graduated from high school, I went off to a community college and tried to figure out my way, figure out my direction. I started taking business. I really wanted to see, and nothing really kind of stuck or fit for me. So my mom was like, hey, I have some uncles that are in the trade business. I think it might be something that you would really excel at. And I was like, okay, that seems like something I could try. And so I looked up a trade school and I wanted to go away at school. So I was like, man, where can I go away at school, have fun, but also maybe take this path in this direction? And that's where I went to a school in south of Rochester, New York. It's called Alfred State. And I went there for 2 years and took heating and plumbing. Um, it kind of changed my life a little bit. It was a very good experience. I came out of college and was like, okay, I have a path. This is what I want to do. Now, in that whole story, I was actually also in a sales position in a work atmosphere. I actually used to work for a jeweler. I used to sell diamonds and certain things like that. So I think it was very important that communication skills and sales skills kind of were building at that time as I decided to go off and do this trade school situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I go off to the trade school. I come out of school. I'm like, this is great. I move back in with my parents. I'm like, okay, now it's time to hit the real world. I go to a place in Lockport, New York to apply for a job. I go there and I'm like, okay, I walk in there. I almost walk in there like Conor McGregor's walking into a fight. I'm like, I got this. I'm the man. I'm gonna knock these guys off their socks. I go in there and completely bomb the interview. They're like, this guy is a joke. Absolutely, completely bombed it. And I'm like, what happened? Well, I realized in that moment, I was kind of like book smart, but I had no technical or work life experience at all. And I
Mm-hmm.
was missing that. And in that moment, I was like, gosh, I just spent all this money going to college. I can't even get a job. So I get another interview. I walk in there and I changed everything. I walked in there and said, hey guys, this is what I am. I went to school for this. This is the direction I want to go. I don't know anything, but I can be taught, and I'm the hardest worker you'll ever have. Got hired, changed my life. Worked with a technician for 2 years. He taught me everything he knew about everything. And he was tough. He was like, Brandon, it's snowing outside. Go sit in the truck. I'm like, nope, I'm on this roof with you. We're changing out this heat exchanger together. Like,
Yeah.
he put me through it for 2 years straight. I learned more in 2 years straight than I did spending in $30,000 to $40,000 in school. It was a game changer for me. So that's how it kind of started for me. Then I'm going to transition to Florida because that's in New York. So now we're 1,000 miles away. My wife, at the time, she was getting her master's in education, beautiful, brilliant lady. And she goes, hey, I think I'm going to move to Florida. And she had an aunt here at the time that lived here. And I was like, I don't want to move to Florida. I have everything I need here. I have food, I have family, and I have friends all here in New York. I don't want to move to Florida. She's like, well, I think I'm going to go. So needless to say, I'm like, okay, get down here. She's like, hey, there's this air conditioning company that you might want to go take a look at and see if you would work. So I go meet with Joel Donovan and immediately was like, this is the place for me.
Mm.
I mean, between Joel and Kyle, we were kind of, generally around the same age. They were taking the business over from their parents. It was kind of trending in the right direction. It was kind of just a perfect fit. So started working from them, and we moved here. We had my wife and I. She was a teacher. She was in the education field, and we have two beautiful daughters. Ava's 16, Claire's 11. And they were both born in Jacksonville. You could not drag me out of this place. I love it. I absolutely love it here. I love the people. I love our work culture. What Joel and Kyle Donovan have done to this place is unbelievable. They will back you to no other. They will support you. They treat you like they're your family. So from there, I basically started this career. And then there's a journey along the way of, growing, me personally growing as the company was growing at the same time. And that leads me to where we are now.
That's great. Thank you for that. Let's switch over and let's have Steve kind of give us your background, your history, how you got in how'd you get to Donovan, or how'd you become a selling technician? Let's start there.
So the probability of me sitting here with you guys in my life is worse odds than any person fighting against Mike Tyson in his prime. I come from an area in Connecticut, Bridgeport, Connecticut area. When I was growing up, I was not mechanically inclined, never worked on anything. My father passed away when I was very young, come from a single mom, was going in all crazy directions. When I was about 23, really didn't have much direction where I was going to go. And then I came across a Porter and Chester Institute technical school where they had night classes. And in Connecticut, in New York area, you can't just jump into the trade. You have to have certification to even be an apprentice. So I went and did this night school, did it for 18 months. In that time, I got a job working in a factory, in a machine shop. Started moving my way up there and figured, all right, I'll just work in this machine shop for the rest of my life. My fiance at the time, which is my wife, she really pushed me to take a chance and jump into the trade. When I got into the trade, I was working for a small outfit, one-man show, and they had me just kind of doing grunt work, getting piping, really just being a gopher on installs. And in that time, my wife wanted to start having a family, and she wanted to move where where she grew up, which is Orange County, New York area. So my mother-in-law was doing a spin class. My mother-in-law is in phenomenal shape. I mean, there's nobody that works out like my mother-in-law. She was doing a spin class, and a older guy named Ed Engel, who owned A-Star Heating and Air Conditioning since the 70s, he kind of had a crush on my mother-in-law, and they would talk all the time. And she said, I have, my future son-in-law, there's going to be moving down, and he wants to get into the trade. Now, Ed Engel was not just the owner of A-Star, he was a top-notch sales guy. So he hired me, and they put me in installation where I was told I needed to cook. And when I was in installation, we would go to a job, if the salesman sold the furnace, but not the condenser and the coil, or vice versa, within the first 10 minutes of me being there, just naturally, I would get the customer to get that salesman back in the door and get the rest of the meat off the bones. And I wasn't even trying. I was just having conversations. They started noticing this, and they brought me into service to be mentored by a guy that changed my life. His name is John Bova. He runs the service department at A-Star. He's still there. He was there since the 80s. And he would put you through a year-long riding. You rode with him for a year. And the things he would do to train you and bring you along, you probably can't even get away with in today's culture. And guys probably wouldn't even put up with it, but we did. He turned me and a select few guys into absolute work animals. We would fight for on-calls. We would fight for overtime. Up there it would be 0 degrees, so you were working all night long. When I jumped into service, the only reason I was put into a truck as fast as I was one guy left, another guy left, this guy left, all these opportunities opened, and I was thrown right into it. I would work so much on call in the middle of the night that what would happen was a boiler would be leaking, a boiler would be down, and Ed Engel would call me up 8, 9 o'clock at night, and he'd be like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm going to get a comfort advisor in tomorrow. And he would say, why don't we just sell it right now? He's like, are you open to doing that? I said, I'll do whatever you want. I would literally walk in with a piece of paper. You couldn't even read my writing, and the customer would sign the estimate. The boiler would be going in the next day. They used to make fun of me saying, we can't even read what you wrote on the piece of paper. How did anybody sign this? The next couple of years, they had me start selling on my own. A gentleman named Bill Pulte bought the company from Ed, and they brought in a very high-end sales culture where they built a selling tech team. I think the first year I did 1.5 million. Second year I did 2.2 million. Third year, they started giving me estimates, teaching me real on-spot sales, warming up leads, cold leads. Famous word I learned called proposal ready. We started learning all sales skills, and then eventually I went full sales. So for 3 years, I was no longer a tech. I was a full sales guy. COVID starts hitting, and my wife comes to me and says she wants to move to Florida. I never thought I would leave this company. My mentor kind of convinced me maybe this is an opportunity for you. She found a place called Nocatee. I put a down payment on the land. We started building the house. Never stepped foot on the property. Never even surveyed it. My wife sent me a list of companies hiring in Florida. I looked through all of them, never called them. I said, nah, I don't feel it. I started scrolling through, and I seen two brothers standing like this, Joel and Kyle Donovan, in the ad. I read the family lineage, everything from the father, and I said, I can sell that. I can connect with that. I took all my numbers from Service Titan, everything broken down into gross profit margin of every sale, closing ratios, everything, and I sent it to Donovan's server. Within 5 minutes, I had Joel Donovan on the phone.
Wow.
Joel said something to me. He goes, look, I'm not looking for another salesman. I'm looking for a true selling tech that can do both. And with your history, I think you can help do it here, but also help other guys do it and help grow us. So I kind of got excited. I always like doing both because if it's slow, I can make things out of nothing. I can go into a house where nothing's broken and ethically just have a long-term conversation with the customer, and they do things proactive. My biggest philosophy is financing. Financing gives people the money to do now what they wanted to do a year from now. The key to it was there were so many delays with building with COVID. We didn't know when I was coming. So I literally signed up with Joel. It took 9 months. I never stepped foot on the property in Florida till I closed on the property. In that time, I couldn't just leave A-Star hanging, so I told them my plans. So what was supposed to be a 4-month build turned into a 9-month build. So, Kevin, what do you think happens? They start taking away all my leads because they got to invest in new guys. I literally kept afloat with 1 lead a day, and I just made sure I sold that one job. And then I come to Donovan, and like I said, one of the many positives of working in Donovan Heating and Air, besides the culture, besides the team, Brandon and I are sitting here now, we're talking about numbers, but there's a whole team behind making those numbers happen. Joel Donovan especially, I've said this before, he will throw a jetpack on you, and he will shoot you into success, where a lot of cultures kind of want to put you forward, pull you back a little bit. Not here. And that grows for everybody. And in that time, me and Brandon have, we'll obviously get into that. We've linked up and we've tried to share that with people that we've learned. But that's how I've got.
That's great. Thank goodness. 2 things I see. Thank goodness for both of your wives, right? Thank goodness for both of your wives. And thank goodness what I see is correlations between mentorship. Brandon, you mentioned 2 years you were under some pretty incredible, life-changing mentorship. And also, Steve, you mentioned this gentleman, Ed Angle, was also your mentor, and you said he changed your life in that year that you spent riding with him. So I think there's a message here around mentorship. Go ahead.
Yes, Angle was the owner. The mentor, who is still like a mentor to me now, is John Bova.
John Bova. Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
He brought up. I always had persuasion skills.
Yeah,
I had the sales in me, but he brought out the unbreakable mindset, and that I didn't have.
Yeah.
So there's people in your life.
What's that mean? Give me some. Imagine somebody's never heard that. Our viewers, an unbreakable mindset.
All right, I have a great example.
Yeah.
January 10th of this year, I fell off a roof working and shattered and broke my leg. When they were waking me up from surgery, the nurse handed me my phone. I was out of it. She thought that it was my wife calling from the waiting room. It was a customer that I've been trying to close. And I literally closed that job half out of it, coming out of anesthesia.
Okay. Unbreakable, baby. Unbreakable.
The woman whose roof I fell off, when they reset my foot and placed in the hospital, I called her when they woke me up to let her know everything's okay. We'll be there Monday to install the unit. She started crying. She couldn't believe it. And she will tell that story to the next person. Go with Donovan. They will make sure your job's going in no matter what happens. Incredible. Just never letting anything on the outside affect your what you do professionally every day.
Yeah. So
I don't think it was, Kevin, I think that you're right. It's not something that we were essentially just have. I think it's something that we've built this through training and through longevity and experience to get to be where you are, to be able to do stuff like Steve was just talking about.
Yeah. I mean, there's something magical because when I look at the GOAT Awards, there are 30 different brands and 30 different companies inside Wrench, right? Some of the top performers. And how is it that we had 2 guys that finished number 1 come from the same company? That there's something special going on there. And you mentioned it earlier that you've got this culture of collaboration between the 2 of you.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that a little bit? What does that look like?
Yeah. I mean, I could kick this off real quick. It was actually pretty hard for me when Steve came in to the company, knowing that he was going to be a high performer and you're kind of the only one, right? I was like, so I didn't really like him. To be honest with you, I'm still up for debate. I'm not really sure if I still like him. No, I just kid. But at any rate, it was like, okay, there's this guy coming in. I'm the guy. He's not the guy. What I realized really quickly is he's just like me.
Mm.
So we are kind of cut from the same cloth. We actually even came from the same general location, and we kind of have a very similar path, even though we're different people. Um, in collaborating with Steve on a daily, which now we kind of make it a thing, we have boosted ourselves to the next level because we are continuing to learn over and over, whether it be from him or me or vice versa, and then passing that on to someone else that we actually help train in a training circle that we've developed through Donovan Heating and Air. But it's a collaboration. I feel like that everybody needs that. And I've mentioned this earlier, Kevin. It doesn't matter if you're a plumber, if you're an electrician, if you're HVAC, you're selling a furnace or a heat pump or whatever it may be, or not even selling, even if you're a technician. If you associate yourself with top producers, you get to that level. And it can be also contagious the other way, which is really sad. If you have someone that's disgruntled or not very high producer and you're always connecting with them, well, where do you think you're going to be?
Mm.
So it's a game changer. Now we talk on a regular basis and collaborate all day long about certain different things that we've used or triggered in a particular sale or whatever it may be to be successful. So it's basically also helped me go to another level that everyone doesn't even know they have, but it's there. And there's still more levels above that. I'm not finished. So
I think key things is I've kind of helped Brandon learn about what proposal ready means, and he's helped me get the know out.
Okay.
Most people in sales, go ahead.
No, I just want to dig in on that a little bit more. So go ahead and finish, and then we'll get back to proposal ready.
So Brandon, what you've taught me about getting the know out is let's say you've given me a proposal and you and I are sitting down and I'm looking at the proposal and I say these magic words that every guy in our position here, I say, man, I just need to think about it. What is something you would say to get me to say no, to get me to open up the objection? So I'm actually telling you what I need to think about.
yeah, so one of the first things is you always want to do is agree. Yeah, I understand. There's a lot to think about. There's a lot to go over. With that being said, is there anything in particular that you're thinking about? Then from there, you're getting more information. Okay, I understand. Kevin. This proposal, it seems like it's a good fit. So just out of curiosity, what don't you like about it? What don't you like about this estimate?
Nine times out of 10, you'll follow that up. Well, they will look at that proposal and say, oh, I like the unit. I like this. I like that. Boom, boom, boom. And they'll either work their way all the way down and tell you every reason why it's a good fit, look at you and say, you know what, we could do this. Or they'll come to the last objection, which is the price. And then there's all different ways to do that. Everybody in sales is taught, get the yes, walk in, get a yes to this, get a yes to that. You get that no out, that opens everything out. That opens everything.
Yeah, so yeses are very surface level. Kevin, they're very, very surface level. So some people even just say yes to get rid of you. Think about that for a minute. I mean, how many times do you agree with someone and you're just like, but you don't really mean it? So you're like, yeah, hey, yeah, that's great. It's surface level. If you get someone to say no, you're going to find out the root of the problem or whatever it may be. So it's a little different.
I did it with my son last night. My son's 10 years old. Phenomenal football player. He takes football just as serious as I take sales. And we're driving in the car. We're going to a tournament this weekend. And I said to him, now I want to go tonight. I want to get a car, go tonight. So I'm trying to influence that. My son, we're trying to get him to answer his own questions. My son likes to ask the same question over and over again. So we're trying to teach him to tell us what he thinks. And this way he's finalizing it. So I said to him, I said, we're in the car last night. My father-in-law's driving because he brought us to practice. And I said, what do you think, bud? Do you think we should go tomorrow night, get a head start, or do you think we should, wake up and shoot? That was my key word. Shoot right down there that same day. And he goes, I don't know, Dad. I got to think about it. It's 10 years old. So I want him to make a decision now. So I said, okay, no problem. I look at my father-in-law and I said, watch this. I said, just out of curiosity, and you don't have to tell me now, Julian, what about going tomorrow do you not like? And he goes, oh my God. He goes, we're going to have to wake up at 6, Dad. We're going to have to be rushing down there. You're not going to have your coffee. We're going to be rushing in. We might be late. I'm not going to be able to warm. He listed every reason why we shouldn't go Saturday. I said, so you feel that Friday's a better fit? He goes, yeah, let's do Friday. I said, all right, we'll do Friday. That's sales.
Incredible.
Not me preaching 85 million reasons why we should go and pushing it, but getting him to answer his own objection where it's his idea and I'm just facilitating it. When I go into a house, I'm just facilitating things. I'm an advisor. I'm listening and getting to know you to where when I build that proposal, I already know your proposal ready. That goes back to proposal ready. A lot of guys go in, they go right for the ductwork. They measure this, they measure that. They just start selling efficiency, not connecting. But if I start asking questions, hey, Kevin, do you think we should sit down and go over pricing? There comes the yes. Hey, if we do this, I ask a question, if, and I always say, this is probably based on price, this answer, but will we be financing this project? If I get an answer, oh, I definitely need financing. Now I know all I got to do is get them the money. They're ready to hear the number. If I hear, gee, I don't know, we still haven't thought about it. I said, okay, you haven't thought about it. Just out of curiosity, what's the timeline on this project? And that's when they'll say, oh, we have to do it now. Or, well, I still got 4 or 5 estimates coming in a week. Now I know we're going to be the most expensive because we're the best, correct? I'm not going to shoot the number right then and there. So now I have time. Okay, Kevin, would it be fair? This is a lot. If I do a little homework, get back to you in a few days, have this package already ready for you, and this way we can go over it. Now what that does is that lets me leave. They remember the experience they've had with no number put together with it. They're going to go get those other prices with all the rookies coming in, just shooting. Then they're going to come back to me after. Then I get to sit down with them again, go over all of it. And then if I hear, hey, Steve, this costs more, this is $2,000 more than the other guy, that's when I say, are you looking for an upfront price with no cost going forward? Or if you're looking for the lowest price with unknown costs going forward? That's a whole other conversation.
There's some good stuff there. There's some good, really good stuff. Powerful.
Yeah, there's a lot there, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
yeah. We're not order takers. I don't have to give you an estimate right away.
Right.
We like to use it. I don't even call it an estimate anymore. I call it a consultation because I'm here to consult, and figure out what is needed, because they may not be proposal ready, where they don't, they're shooting a proposal now for something that they may or may not need in 6 months. If you give them a card, explain everything that you're going to do in that, they're going to call you back.
Yeah.
But you better believe if they're not 100% ready and you give them an estimate now, they're just going to go shop that out until they're ready. And you may never hear back from them again. Even if you're what we can get into in a little bit here, that I always joke with Steve when I say to people, hey, what is your, you gave an estimate today. What do you think is the most important out of that estimate? And they're like, well, I don't know. And I'm going to deflect to Steve because Steve always tells people all the time about this. Go ahead, Steve.
So we do a lot of training in the company. So Joel's been implementing us in helping the other departments. So the number one thing I ask anybody in sales, whether we're talking to somebody on the street that we know that's in sales or we're at the GOAT Awards, I always say to a salesman, what's your follow-up process? Nobody has ever given me a follow-up process. Hey, what's your closing ratio? Nobody ever knows their closing ratio. If you don't know your closing ratio, how do you know what you're doing?
Mm-hmm.
I know my pipeline like the back of my head. Joel used to say to me, where are you writing all this down? And he gets mad at me. I say, it's all in my head. He goes like, no, like really, were you writing it all down? Joe, it's all in my head. If you and I have a conversation, I'll remember. If I go into your house now, 6, 7 months from now, I come back, I know everything we've talked about. Now I'm starting to incorporate in other ChatGPT and things like that just to polish it up. But you have to have a mindset in this business that there isn't another person on this planet that's going to be able to help that customer as well as you can. You don't concede that to anybody.
So how do you keep that mindset, Steve? Like how do you
want to get deep? Want to know?
Yeah, please. This is what it's all about. I love. How do we have these effects in the background? The greatest thing ever.
So without getting personal, this is we can go 10 podcasts on this. My father was a larger than life guy. Okay, he was a legend in the area. Before he died, half my childhood he was in prison. So I know what it's like to come from a family where we don't have anything. My aunts are taking the brunt of it. My grandmother's coming in to help. My mother's working 2 jobs. I know what it's like to have it where a parent dies and there's not even any money to have the funeral. I refuse to let my kids grow up the way I did. The things that I went through as a kid and even an early adult, my kids will never see that. And maybe some of that builds character, but my mission in life is to make sure that they don't have to go through any of that. My mission as a man is to make sure my wife doesn't have to worry about where the money's coming from. We talked about me getting hurt this year. The first thing I thought of when I looked down and see my foot crooked was, how the hell am I going to go run these next 2 estimates? Now, some people may think that's crazy, but that gives me a purpose in life. Mm-hmm. That's how I keep the mindset. I refuse to let my kids grow up the way I did. Now, that may be extreme for some people, but that's my motivation.
That's great. So how have you, again, both of you finishing number 1 is phenomenal. Says so much about the organization that you're a part of. Have you guys always had this high level of success? Let's start with you, Brandon. Have you always been the top achiever when you came in? Did you figure this all out, or how long did it take you to kind of develop into the comfort advisor or the comfort consultant that you are today?
Yeah, sure. So actually, when I first started at Donovan, I was actually a technician. So my first 2 years, I was a technician because there was not like a sales associate spot available at that time. Now, when I got hired, I told Joel immediately, hey, this is my vision and this is my path. And he said, just trust me, hold on, we'll figure something out eventually. I'll take care of you. So I started as a technician, and for a while there, I was going through doing maintenances and doing whatever I could. And I actually solved and sold so many air quality products. It was unbelievable. Like no one did it. I sold UV lights were popular back at that time, and I sold a ton of them. And how I actually sold them is I didn't even really sell them. I just informed people that they were available. It's pretty simple. It wasn't like, hey, you need to buy this. It was like, hey, do you have a second? I want to show you something. Hey, take a look at this. I'm here to clean this today, but I won't be here tomorrow. But I have a device that I can put in here that actually represents me being here tomorrow. Mm. Okay. And that also obviously gives the family pure quality air every single day when I'm not here. So I started that journey. Then I got into the sales portion side. And immediately I started gravitating and selling more and more and more. Now, I wasn't always, as we grew with the company, I grew with it, but then also my knowledge and my love for sales even grew deeper, where I started doing training. And I feel like as you do education and training, you can change your mindset, which is huge, and you start learning different ways. And I actually stopped selling products. I let people buy. And that's when I realized, hey, you don't have to sell to people. You actually have to ask calculated questions and tailor a proposal to what their needs are. which is way different than say buy, buy, buy. Okay. Because when you start asking calculated questions, what happens is a homeowner or whatever, they only believe and retain about 25% of what you say, but they always believe 100% of what they say. So if you ask them questions and they're saying, yeah, I do need a new system and I think I would like that. And that seems like it would be a good fit. And oh yeah, we do have air quality products. Oh, no problem. I have a solution for that. Instead of say, hey, I have a piece of equipment here and an air quality product that can solve this problem. You got to establish the problem first and then have a solution for that problem. So as I naturally went through this progression of understanding these things, it became easier. And you feel better as a consultant because you're actually helping people instead of trying to sell them a product, which is a game changer. And then we started a training program inside of Donovan that actually helped out technicians to kind of understand these skills that me and Steve have developed.
When we do this class with the techs, I always give myself as a example of stuff I went through to kind of show them if I can do. They look at, when I came here, they know the numbers and everything, but they didn't know me before that. So I always try and give them stories, things I failed at. One of the examples I gave them when I first did the first class at Donovan was I put a chalkboard up, a paper board, and I went around the room and I said to each tech, if you can describe me in one word, what would it be? And as I went down, they were like legend, go, all these flattering things. I said, okay, what were you guys doing in 2015? And they were all, in high school or whatever. I said, well, in 2015, the one word to describe me and I wrote it on the board, was bag of hammers. That's what they called me in the industry, a bag of hammers. And what that meant was that I was good. I wasn't good at anything. I was a bag of hammers. And so what I try and connect with them is, if I can go from being called a bag of hammers to where you guys think this is of me now, you can do the same thing. My failures in the trade were I couldn't get the technical part fast enough. They had me welding. I became really good at piping, but in the beginning, I was always burning myself. I had all these things that would happen that everybody told me, you don't belong here. Now, whether they were nervous of me or they saw something in me, they were all trying to get me to quit the trade. So when you say, was I always in this position? No, I had a lot of ways. I had a lot of reasons to quit. The guy that mentored me kept me in. The guy that owned the company gave me a lot of tough love, whether he was trying to get me out or not. And that combination helped me pass through it. So like I said, used to be the bag of hammers. Now people have me on podcasts. So no, was I always successful? No, not at all. And now, and this business has a tremendous way of humbling you. Comes around every couple of years. And you think you're doing good, and then there'll either be a customer that cancels, or a job you misdiagnose, or a house you misengineer. There's always something that's going to humble you. So even though when you're having success, you always got to kind of pull it back, because there's always something in this business. We are like doctors, but we're more accessible than doctors. That's the trade to me. So no, if like I said before, when we first started, if I can be successful in this, any tech, any sales guy, any office personnel, anybody can be successful in this.
Is there anything either one of you do regularly to pick yourself up out of those challenging times when you are humbled? Like, is there any specific steps you take or things you do to pull yourself out? Because we all face challenges. We all get kicked. We all fall down.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, definitely, Kevin. I mean, there's multiples. I mean, but a lot of it has to do with like your nucleus and your kind of ecosystem that you have, which is your family, right? It starts there. I mean, my wife sacrificed her career for me to achieve what I'm trying to achieve in my career. So she had her master's in education, was a teacher for 10 years. And at one point when our daughters, we needed scheduling and they needed to go to golf practice or volleyball practice or whatever, it got a lot. And I was not able to be home all the time at 4, 5. My schedule, sometimes I get home 6, 7, 5. She sacrificed that career and able for me to achieve and have the flexibility. And in that, when you have these ups and downs, going back to that support is priceless. And if you have a really good home and an unbelievable spouse, and you're on the same like wavelength of where you are heading, it's a game changer. And I can't speak enough. I mean, what she's done to get me to where I am and help, even though she does not get the recognition for it. And here I am. I stand up and get a GOAT award, but really, it's my family and then the team at Donovan Heating and Air. Everybody that works there essentially is the reason why I get that.
Yeah.
I love your so speak to the technician though, or the salesperson that maybe doesn't have that family. Maybe doesn't have that is yet to be blessed with a wife and the two kids that you said that you have. What advice would you give for them when they fall down?
Yeah. So, well, it starts with them realizing right away you have to change your mindset. And the mindset starts with this: you don't have a job, you have a career, and it's way different. So, if you still feel like you have a job, well, then that might not be your path. You may have to change your path. Because if you have a career, you're putting so much more into it. That means you're going to be there long term, and you want to elevate yourself. And when you start doing that, then you start doing essentially like, self education. You start reading books in what you're doing. You start asking questions from someone else that's very successful. When you do that, you start building up this resilient and basically thick skin per se in what you're doing to be able to handle those things when you don't have, say, that family behind you.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it can be even easier because you can take risks. You don't have to worry about providing for, 3 other people. You just have to worry about yourself. So sometimes it can be easier, but it is a mindset change. And that's essentially where it starts.
That's terrific. Steve, you were going to say something.
A lot of techs, especially, they can get their mind screwed up if they're not getting the right calls. They get a little success. They don't get the right calls. They feel like people are holding them down. I always tell them, if you feel like you're not getting the right calls, grab the weekend work. There's nobody else working. Calls are going to have to go to you either way. If you blow it out of the park Monday and Sunday, hopefully somebody in that office, Saturday and Sunday, hopefully somebody in that office on Monday says, well, maybe we should throw him the freaking ball. That's how I did it. And then I my sales class is kind of like, it's a little rough sometimes, where we get, tough love and then pulling people back in. So sometimes I'll tell people either find a reason why, like if you're not married and you want to have a family, okay, if I'm going to marry this girl I'm with, she's going to want me to provide, I need to do these things. Or find an enemy, somebody you want to stick it to. There's a great book, I'm sure you heard of it, Choose Your Enemies Wisely. And sometimes you need a little motivation. And if it's not going to be somebody that you want to provide for, pick somebody you want to beat. When Brandon was sitting on that GOAT award last year and he got his trophy, what was it, 4th place? He looked around at all the rest of the guys and he said, I don't know about you, but I'm coming for that Morwich Jenkins guy. And they all looked at him like he had 3 heads. Well, 365 days later, he beat everybody on there.
7.92 million.
Yeah.
7.92 million.
I think there's some stuff missed in there. I think it's over 8, but who's counting? Who's counting?
Hey, both of you have mentioned this education piece, and this. I mean, it's giving back. It's got to be keeping yourself fresh when you're training these young techs. Is that what I'm hearing, or what is it that you guys are doing to keep things fresh for you? And it sounds like you're doing some training for these techs. I want to hear more about that.
So we were hitting it heavy last year for about half the year.
Okay.
And it started out as my project, and Brandon started coming to it, which gave it a lot of credibility, because if Brandon's coming, that means everybody else should hear it too. And then it helped me because then Brandon became part of it. I'm sitting up there and don't know, the first 3 classes, I don't even know what I'm going to say, and I'm just shooting. and which I think is the best way. And then I would start shooting on him, and he would shoot back. And we'd have 3 or 4, you have 3 or 4 guys after that come to you like, that was freaking great. And then you can see some guys that are looking for a reason to be tuned out, and that's fine. This is, you're only going to get out of it what you want. But I think it helps the company, but I think it helps us because it pushes us. If last night we were on the phone for 10 minutes, just that 10 minutes put me back in the flow of work. I haven't been at work in a couple of months, so it gets me going. So if I'm able to get going, it pushes me for the day. So like I said, it comes full circle. You're sharpening yourself up against other people.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, if there's a comfort advisor or a selling tech that's out there that's feeling a little bit stale, would you suggest that they get back in and start training some of these techs
Sure.
and get in and help out train with regards to training for other comfort consultants?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
it's like sparring.
It's like, yeah, for sure. I think it serves two purposes. I think it keeps the person that is actually training, it keeps them motivated. I think it also keeps them in their knowledge top, but then you're also helping out other people in your company at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, I'm a firm believer on self-education. I think Never Split the Difference is a book by Chris Voss. And I think if anyone in our industry hasn't read it, they're crazy. Or listen to it. Better than listen to sports talk radio or whatever when you're driving around. A book like that will basically change your mindset on how you approach anything in our industry. And it's a negotiation book. And I think it's unbelievable. That's one learning thing that we've actually kind of put in our training program that, hey, guys, you should read this. Mm-hmm. Another one is a guy named Jeremy Miner, which I follow on Instagram. I think that he is very good at, he preaches tonality so that your delivery when you're talking to someone is very important, because sometimes it can come off very sad. It can come off very harsh. It can come off very neutral. It can come off excited. And you have to know how to gauge all those, because people buy on emotions. People make decisions on emotions, and you have to be able to regulate all those.
He has a great sales, that Jeremy Miner. I mean, we're not plugging him. We don't even know him, but his one saying, and it's not even trade geared towards the trade, but we've incorporated it great. If I have a customer that's never used Donovan before, and I'm kind of in the, just getting information, I haven't even given a proposal. They'll say to me, well, give me 4 reasons why I should use Donovan. And your regular sales guy will say, our warranties, our honesty, or this, that. I'll look right at him and go, geez, Kevin, I'm not even sure you should yet. Then I'll pause. You literally see them get drawn in. And I'll say, are you looking for an upfront, like I said before, upfront price, no cost going forward? I've been doing this 12 years, 15 years. I'm not going to sit here, Kevin, and tell you nothing's going to go wrong on this install. But what I am going to tell you is if something does go wrong, we're going to have it taken care of that day. You don't have to chase us. Do you want a comfort advisor that's going to be not just with you during this installation, but sticking by the unit, one phone call away, and for future projects? I'll go into all these things and I'll say, you've said yes to every one of them. So yes, we are the person for you. So if you agree with all those things that you just said, then yes, you should use us. If they've been a long-time Donovan customer and they're balking at the price because they bought a unit 15 years ago and times have changed, I'll say, how long have you been with us? I'll know, because I read every history like a doctor's visit. We've been with you guys 15 years. How'd you get with the company? Oh, God, I used to surf with Joel in high school, or Bill, their father, great guy. He worked on our unit 20 years ago. He bailed my mother out of a jam. It's at 11 o'clock at night. How many installations have you done with us? Well, I've done 2 over the course of 20 years. I'll get them to tell me every reason why they've stuck with Donovan. And I'll say, that's what you're used to. So you have that guy that he just mentioned, his one philosophy in sales, we've incorporated into the trade, and it's a game changer.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, and you share this a little bit, do you think, Steve, that having Brandon there has raised your game?
Oh, yeah.
And why is that?
If he wasn't working here, I probably, once I got $3, $4, $5 million ahead of everybody else, probably would have went on a few vacations. If he wasn't working here now, I might wait an extra month for this foot to be right. I want to get back. You know, me and him talk every day, and he's going over every lead he's going on. It's like it's an addiction. You know, I want to be out there. I've been selling over the phone since I've been gone. I've been gone for like 50 days. I've sold $500,000 on the phone. It's not the same.
Mm-hmm.
My wife's ready to throw me out of the house. When this injury first happened, I started thinking maybe I need more time off. Maybe I'm too focused at work. And, you know, when you said, how do you get yourself out of a low point? And I said, maybe, and I was getting low on myself. And my wife gave me this big speech the other night. You're a warrior out there. You're this, you're that. The customers love. She was pumping me back up. And that lifted me back up. But it was also, hey, you need to get the hell out of this house soon. You're driving us all crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well,
having Brandon here, I wouldn't be at the number I'm at if he wasn't.
Yeah.
If you're chasing somebody, you're going to make more money than you ever have. If you're running for somebody, you're going to make the most money you've ever had.
Mm. Same question for you, Brandon. Does Steve being on board make you better?
Oh, I mean, without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I kind of joke all the time that we're kind of like wide receivers. You know, we're both top end wide receivers and we both want the ball. It doesn't matter. He wants it. I want it. And we're very similar. So he's driven me in multiple different aspects. I mean, we've collaborate all the time and it's helped me close tons of deals and vice versa. So seeing him and his numbers, it's unbelievable. Now, obviously, we also have two different positions because he's a selling tech. And so he has some opportunities that he can turn that I can't always have that opportunity. But he also tells me about those stories. And then I can take those stories and how he did it and tell another technician, hey, why don't you try this? Steve just did this over here. You know, don't go in there and basically say you need a new unit. Say, hey, let's see if we can locate this fan motor first. Okay, let's see if we can locate this. Let me get you a price on that first. And let's see if we can do that. Slow roll the whole thing. He's been unbelievable driving me. You know, when we were at the Go Awards last year, it was like he took first place in his category. I think I took fourth. I'm not even sure. I don't count unless it's first or second or whatever. It doesn't matter. We get on the plane and we go back and I look at him and I don't know if you know this about Steve. He don't like planes. So he looked blue in the face. I mean, he looks tough now, but he was not tough. So let's get that right straight. So I look at him on the plane and go, dude, when we come back here, we're going to take 1-1 and we're going to put Donovan on the map and we're going to do, and there's two, and we're going to do it. And we're going to do it for Joel and Kyle and we're going to do it for their dad because this little Donovan Heating and Air in Jacksonville, North Florida, we want to put them on the map. And what other way we can do it is try and do this and then help other people get there too.
Gentlemen, what a gift that you've given Donovan. They were all already known as a great company, but then to have two guys finishing 1-1, I agree. What a feather in their cap. So congratulations to you guys for doing that, for having that drive to want to do that for Donovan. That's fantastic. I want to go back to something you said because I want to understand what that conversation looks like. You're coming out of a call, Brandon, and you make a phone call to Steve because it sounds like that's when you're collaborating. Is, hey, I just got out of this call, and here's what happened. What is that? Give me an idea of what that phone call looks like.
Yeah, so usually it goes one of two ways. It's like, hey, Steve, I sold this job, and man, I can't believe it. I did this, and it was really successful. Check this out. And he's like, immediately I leave it hanging for a second. He's like, well, what? Tell me, like, what did you do? I said, well, I kind of hit an eject button at this house and I don't know, but it really worked. And I think it was very successful. He goes, well, what are you talking about? Went in this house, gave a presentation on a consultation of what they needed, went through everything, and the husband and wife were both there. And you could see that they wanted to make a decision, but it's also sometimes hard when you are there in front of them and they want to kind of have that brief moment of time. So there's that awkward, like you're there, they're having a conversation, but they don't want to open up the full conversation because you're kind of the third wheel in the date, right? So in that given moment, I'm thinking, man, how can I do this? Hey guys, give me a second. I'm going to go to the truck and get something real quick. I go out to the truck. I give myself 5 minutes. I make a phone call actually to another customer to circle back with them to see where their head's at. I give them 15 minutes. I walk back in and they're like, Brandon, we decided to go with this. I said, oh, okay. How does tomorrow work for you? That works great. Okay. Did you want to take advantage of the finance promotion? They're like, no, we're just gonna pay with a credit card. Sounds fair. That sounds great. I run out of the house. I call Steve. I said, Steve, check this out. This is what I did. I go, I hit this eject button. I goes, really? I said, yeah. I mean, you got to try it. It worked. I was like, this is unbelievable. So we collaborate on things like that. And also, I'll ask him if I didn't sell something. Hey, what do you think you would do differently here? And he'd give advice, X, Y, and Z, and vice versa. So that story goes on where I hit that eject button, go on, and then Steve, go ahead. I'll let you take over.
So maybe like 2 or 3 calls later, I'm sitting down with 2 ladies and same scenario. And she goes to her partner, what do you think? And she says, well, if you think that's the unit. So you can see she put it on her to make the decision. And I'm like, all right, I got to hit this eject button. No, I actually didn't think of the eject button. So I said, you know what? That's fine. Sounds like you guys need to think about it. Let me give you my card. And when I went to pull my wallet out, I didn't have any cards in there. So immediately in my head, I went, eject button. I said, I'll be right back. I'm going to go to my truck and get myself a card. So I went to the truck, restacked my business cards. I, probably peed in a jug in the truck or something like that. Dust text do. Jump back up there, walked in. They go, Steve, we decided I'm handing them the card. We're gonna move forward with this. And I went, you sure? She goes, yeah. I said, okay. I said, what day do you want this done? She goes, what day do you got? So of course I said, well, it doesn't have to be tomorrow, but I can if you ladies feel that makes sense. Yeah, let's do tomorrow. So I unintentionally hit the eject button. Everything in this business, and Brandon said it before, the magic word is it depends. Okay. Hey, what would we do in this scenario? It depends. Hey, how much is a 3-ton air conditioner? It depends. You got to get the details. You got to get the layers on it every call. Use the same skills, same type of approaches in different scenarios.
Whereas if I answer that question really quick, rather than saying it depends, is that what you mean when you say that? I want to hear a little bit more about this. It depends, because if you're calling it the magic word,
a technician will call me up and say, "Hey, I have this customer here. I gave him a proposal. It's a 3-ton air conditioner," and they'll say, "What do you think I should do?" And I'll be like, "It depends. I don't have any information. Tell me." And I'll either figure out that they didn't get any information, or they give me all the information that they didn't see. I had one recently, and he goes, "They really need an air conditioner. The repair is like $2,000. They're giving me a hard time on the proposal. What would you do?" And I said, "Well, it depends." As we started talking, he told me that they're selling the house. So that's the objection. Why would you want to spend $9,000 if you're selling the house? So I said, okay, go back in with this. Most of our customers that are selling their home do not want to put $9,000 into a unit and sell the house. What if we had a way for you to change the air conditioner where you sell the house in a position of power to where the buyer's not having an inspector come in or them themselves saying the unit's falling apart or down. We want this much of a credit. You have no control of the credit because they're going to decide what unit they want. If you go with this $2,000 repair, you're putting $2,000 into something you're not getting the investment for. What if it breaks again in the 6 months it takes to sell the house? But if you change the air conditioner, you go in a position of power. What if I had a way for you not to pay for it? So even the tech's like, well, how the hell are they not going to pay for it? You say to the customer, Kevin, if I had a way for you not to pay for it, how would that sound?
It would be great. It would be great.
I have a special financing option if you qualify for it. So now what did I do? I made it something not everybody gets.
Mm-hmm.
I want to qualify. Why wouldn't I qualify? Well, hang on. It's 12 months, no interest, no payments. You pay one lump sum in a year. In that year, there's no prepayment penalty. We can put $2,000 into this unit, roll the dice to make the sale, or we sell in a position of power. When they buy the house, you pay off the loan with the buyer's money. Technically, they're paying for the new unit. Tech went in there, spit all that out somehow, and he sold the job.
That's great.
So everything depends. There's, like Brandon says, there's a black swan in every situation, and you got to get that out. Not everything's a lay down lead.
Yeah, so a lot of it comes with those calculated questions, Kevin, that get you to the depends to the path. So, every proposal, every estimate, every situation has a different door that you have to navigate through. And there's no clear cut direction. It really just depends on you're basically building a custom proposal or estimate to solve someone's problem. Now that may be different than what you did for the neighbor next door for what their situation is. And you have to basically ask all these questions to figure out what direction you're going. So when someone asks us a question, it's always, well, it kind of depends on the situation. It kind of depends. Multiple different ways you can take it.
How many times do you guys have a customer call in, especially when it's 100 degrees out and they're just number shopping? Hey, I don't want anybody to come out here, but how much is a 3-ton air conditioner? And how many companies have somebody on the phone shoot the number? Boom, hang up the phone. Well, sir, it all depends. Well, what do you mean it depends? It's a 3-ton air conditioner. I'm telling you what the size is. So we're a little bit different than everybody else. There's a lot of factors that play into us giving a proposal. We haven't even seen your home. We don't know your ductwork, our value. We don't know the envelope of the house, if you have leakage here, this and there. We'd really be doing you a disservice just shooting a number. But if you feel there's value with us coming out, it's free. We'd like to get our eyes on it before we dial something in for you. Everything depends.
I love it. So it sounds like you're slowing the situation down. You're slowing the client down. You're gaining more information. You're asking. That gives you more time to ask those calculated questions. Yeah, is that? Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, most certainly. And it's funny because we never used to have all this technology and power that turns you into a superhero in our industry, essentially. Like with Service Titan, and not to plug them right now or what have you, but when I first started doing this, we didn't have all that stuff. I used to go in handwrite proposals, and then I got a computer and print them out. And I would take a digital camera and go up in the attic because I was trying to do every day 1% different than someone else in my industry that would make me better. And so before we go to a call, Service Titan will tell you everything about that house before you get there. If we have technicians that were there before, there's pictures uploaded. Heck, they may even give an estimate on a hot water tank or something else that didn't even get sold, but sitting in like a queue that they were curious about before. You have all these breadcrumbs before you even get there that you can gain this basically internal file before you get to the house. And then when you get in the house, you can best basically direct the scenario to help the homeowner. The whole thing is you want to help the homeowner. Yes, in the end, we're selling a system, but you're solving a problem. That's what you're doing. You're solving a problem. Yes, problems cost money to solve. That's in any nature of the business.
Yeah,
but that's essentially what we're doing.
Hey, Kevin, I noticed we're about to agree on this water heater. Looks like our plumber gave you a price on. We're about to agree on this air conditioner. Looks like our plumber gave you a price on this water heater last year. Did you ever have that done? No, I wasn't doing it. Too much money. Hey, we're financing this air conditioner. Not that we have to, but if we threw that water heater in, solve that problem now, it's only $10 more on your payment.
And so you're doing it all through financing. You're making it easy you're making it affordable.
Why wait till it's 100 degrees in July and I might not be able to get to you and it's stressful when we can knock this out now in March and no headaches? I've been doing this 15 years, Kevin. I work a lot on call. I'm always in the house on 4th of July when the guests are over, and I told you something was going to happen 6 months prior.
Hey, or you're in the house and hey, Kevin, I know I'm here to look at the heating and cooling system, the heat pump, and it's broke, and we're going to look at that. But why I'm here real quick, you don't mind if I take a look at your water softener for you, do you? Real quick?
Well, Brandon, I don't have a water softener.
Oh, Kevin, you don't have a water softener? Oh my gosh, are you serious? Oh, I was just in all your neighbors' houses. A lot of them have them. I can't believe. Well, did you even know that that's something we provide? So it's kind of like one of those things that you're not like, hey, you should get a water softener. You're asking a question and making it seem like, hey, this is actually in Jacksonville, Florida, we have really, really hard water.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that Joel is really excited about. I mean, every house in Jacksonville, Florida needs one. It's just a matter of they know it or not.
That's great. Question. If I'm if I'm a top performer inside of an organization, one of the other organizations in Wrench, let's just say, how do I go about building what you guys have? Because I know you said earlier you didn't always have this, and sometimes the top guys at the organization can kind of fight with each other. What you guys have is special. So what advice would you give to somebody that is that's looking for that high level of competition, yet that's going to drive them? How do they find that inside their own company?
You have to have people in the company that you have to have somebody in the company that's going to connect with those guys. I go back to Joel and Kyle. Even we have a lead install manager, Tommy Krauske, who's a phenomenal guy. If you call him at 11 o'clock at night, he's picking up the phone, and it doesn't have to be about air conditioning. So same thing with Ralph, same thing with guys in the office, Joel especially. Joel will send me a podcast at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'll send him one too. I've probably called Joel in one day more times than he wants to even pick up the phone. If you have those guys kind of centered around it, you make kind of like you make a team. So the top performers want to. It's I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but it's not just. But all right. It's just sales guys talking to each other. You have to not be afraid to maybe piss a few people off.
Mm-hmm.
I think where Steve is really going with this too is, at some point when you're a sales guy and you're really, really successful, I feel like that sometimes you put yourself isolated a little bit instead of learning to help people out, because in return, it will come back to you. And then I think it's really, really important to collaborate with someone that is better than you or at the same level or higher, so that you actually are having conversations and you're naturally learning without even learning, because you're surrounding yourself with good habits.
So that's what I was saying. Like Brandon and I talk all the time about stuff that has nothing to even do with the business. So I mean, I guess you really have to form some type of friendship. I mean, if your sales team's fighting with each other,
yeah,
it's what are you going to get out of that?
Yeah, I mean, there was even a joke that I pushed Steve off the ladder. You know what I mean? They're like, Brandon, you want to beat him this year? You pushed him off the ladder, and I'm like, guys, you have no idea. Like, ever since Steve has gotten here, we both have catapulted each other to the next level. So, like,
Kevin,
it's.
I've had some customers that I knew I wasn't connecting with, and I've literally called office personnel up, our CSRs or and say, hey, I think you can help me with this. They'd be like, me? I'm like, yeah, I think you can help me with this. And I'll literally have had them close the job just to get somebody else on the phone and go back and forth. We have a great girl, Brittany, in our company. She does all the follow-up calls.
Mm-hmm.
And she's been great. And I'll throw her some stuff too, or she'll throw stuff to me. So if you can you have, like I said earlier, it's not just us sitting up here, it's a whole team behind it. When I work a Saturday, if there's somebody in the office, I'll go to that office and sit with them, bring them lunch, talk to them about stuff, and work together. Hey, if you see a call we can jump on, it's really is a team effort. It's like it's Brandon joked before about Tex getting a little bit more opportunities. Don't let Brandon fool you. He bought a leak sniffer the other day.
I'm back, baby. I'm back. Kevin,
You'll see him
Hey,
service calls if he's got him. Just to be
hey, Kevin.
make it happen.
Kevin, tell Steve I'm coming for him.
Steve, that sounds like a challenge to me, baby.
Hey, dude, I got catching up this year. I'm behind.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, gentlemen, such an honor to be in your presence. Such a phenomenal accomplishment once again for the two of you to finish number one in two different categories. I think it's quite a feat. I'm so excited and look forward to seeing you guys in Nashville. So excited to give you those awards on that stage. But I want to, before we leave, what advice, if I was a young salesperson out there, Steve, what advice would you give? And I'll ask you, Brandon, the same question after. But what advice would you give to them if maybe they're only 2, 3, 4 years in this field? Like, how, I'll let you answer.
No, nobody's going to give you anything. You have to go out there and make it happen. Don't let anybody talk you out of your strengths. If you're not the best technically, but you can have a conversation with a customer that causes them to do an improvement to their house, that causes them to spend money, which makes you money. Don't let somebody hating on you talk you out of doing that. If you're very good technically, but you're not good with soft skills, be the best technician you can and just try and open your horizons. If you're a fantastic installer, keep installing the units, make your work precision. If you want to start on installs like I started out selling additional work, you can make $50,000 to $60,000 in this business in commission selling freaking contactors and capacitors. You don't want to sell some air conditioner? Bring some longevity to your unit. Nobody's going to give you anything. You have to go out there and take it, and you got to listen to a bunch of no's and get past it all until somebody's asking you, hey, how'd you do that? Just because nobody's, just take your career in your hands. Find a mentor or find somebody that's going to drive you to whether you like them or not. Find a reason you're gonna make it, because this business will change your life. You have no student loans. Doctors, it takes them 7 years to start making money. The guy that just did my surgery, I probably make just as much money as him.
Probably more. Probably more.
Yeah. So, and that's not about the money. The money. If you're focused on the money, you won't get it. If you focus on becoming the best person in the field, no matter what you're doing, even if you're answering phones, the first sale of the day is a customer calling the office and speaking to a CSR. When people say, oh, I'm not in sales, everybody's in sales. That's the first sale of the day. Going back to training, a guy will say, well, I'm not a sales guy. I'll say, are you married? He'll say, yeah. I'll say, did you ask your wife to marry you? Yeah. Why did she say yes? You told her things are going to be a certain way and you're going to take care of her. That's a sale.
Okay, Brandon, how about yourself?
Yeah, so it goes back to kind of briefly what Steve said, but it's be an expert in what you do. I mean, don't try to be something you're not. So if you're a technician, focus on being the best technician ever. Like if you're a CSR, focus on being the best CSR ever. Don't try and be like, okay, I'm going to be a technician, but then also I want to try and do a little bit of sales here or whatever. I'm going to be the plumber or whatever. Just be the best and be an expert in what you do. And then self education. I mean, gosh, man, it catapulted me from listening to books, podcasts like this, even just listening to your first podcast. Kevin was just so on point when you talked about, be as small as possible so the company can grow as big as possible. And what you mean behind that is like, gosh, this is brilliant. I mean, try and make it seem like the customer is the only person you care about or the company cares about at that given moment. So be as small as possible. So I'm a firm believer in education, and then also surrounding yourself with people that are top performers can't be a bad thing.
That's
I
great.
mean, it only catapults you to the top.
And that
And
speaks to what
so,
you said. That speaks to what you said. Sorry about that, Brandon. I interrupted you. Go
yeah,
ahead.
you're good.
It just
So
speaks
it's
to
just
what you said earlier about if you hang out with dogs that have fleas, you're going to get fleas. So if
right.
you hang out with people and you associate with people that have a positive, they're the sunshine and light, they're drivers, they're what you want to become, so too you will have that. If you hang out with a
Yeah.
person that's negative and always complaining about the company, hey, you're destined for that path as well.
And the effect is actually, it's not equal. So, when you're hanging out with top performers and you're doing that, it's not as equal as hanging out with bottom performers or having negative conversations. That negativity and that conversation is so much more of a negative impact than actually hanging out with top performers. So you'd be better off staying neutral. But if you want to get better, you basically read a book. I challenge everybody, read David Goggins, read that book. You'll come out of that ready to run through a wall.
Mm-hmm.
Read the book that I Never Split the Difference, Chris Voss, read that. I mean, all this content is out there where you don't even really have to pay for it to improve yourself on a daily basis. And then go find your Brandon and go find your Steve. Go collaborate on a daily. Don't say, hey, we only have a meeting once a month. What's that?
Mm-hmm.
Like once a month, I'm doing 6 to 7 estimates a day. I'm talking in between estimates. Like, hey, how can I do this? I close that one, this one. I mean, you got to collaborate to get to the next level. You really do. And then obviously the support system behind you. Don't be afraid to ask. Ask questions. Hey, I don't know this. Hey, how can I be successful? Hey, if I wanted to be at the next level at our company, what would it take for me to do that?
That's great. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you both, Steve, Brandon. You both are the epitome of people that are constantly looking to make your future bigger than your past. That's what I love about doing this podcast and being with people like you, because it inspires me, because I've always believed that, hey, always make your future bigger than your past. And your numbers show that. If you look at your numbers and how you continue to grow each and every year, you're always looking to make your future bigger than your past. So as we sign off, team and Team Wrench, this is Kevin Comerford. And always make your future bigger than your past. And here's to a bigger future. Thanks again, Steve. Thanks,
Good night.
Brandon. Appreciate you guys.